Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another edition of Sporting Bengal United TV. Of course, the best team in Tower Hamlets currently by a country mile, and we are delighted to be joined. But before we do that, make sure you hit that like button and, of course, subscribe to the channel. We're on our road to the very small number of 50 subscribers. We're very close to that target, and we've got there quite quickly. And that's thanks to all you guys in the comments. So make sure you like and, of course, subscribe. As I said, we are delighted to be joined by the groundhopper himself, the legend himself, which is Mr. Peter Dudley. Peter, how are you, mate? And it's really good to have you on the show.
Really happy, really good. And the sun is shining.
I tell you what, 26-degree heat this afternoon.
For October, I just come back from Norway and it wasn't this hot.
How was Norway? Norway good?
Norway was good. Yeah, it was good. It was nice to relax and not think about work for 2 weeks.
Not 26 degrees then?
It wasn't 26 degrees. It was more 15 or something like that. It was still not a bad temperature, but it was 9 degrees one morning and I was a bit fresh.
Yeah, nice. I mean, to be fair, I've been the last few days I've been trying to get back to that rhythm. Like it's harder to get out of bed because obviously for work and it's colder in the mornings, but wake up this morning, I'm like, it's gonna be 26 degrees this afternoon for a cracking game this afternoon between Sporting Bengal United and Woodford Town. I mean, first thing I always ask new guests that come onto the channel. I've asked a few of the players. I haven't asked Matt and Clarkey yet, which is kind of surprising. Is usually just sort of a bit of an icebreaker question to get you started, and it's usually, sort of your own imagination, I would say. So you could play for any club in the world you like. You can play for any manager, and you can play at any stadium in whenever you like. But the difference is you're not allowed to play at a club where that manager has managed. So, for example, you can't play at the Etihad Stadium under Pep Guardiola at the Nou Camp, for example. Or at the Nou Camp, or for Barcelona, because they've managed that club. So it could be anywhere you like, any manager for any team. But obviously, without them having connections with those clubs.
Blimey. I'll probably say Barcelona at the Nou Camp because
but you can't play at the Nou Camp.
I can't play at the Nou Camp.
Yeah.
I'll probably say Barcelona at I don't know. I'm trying to think of the stadiums I like in the world, but
a lot of the guys. Well,
I'll tell you what I'll say. Norwich, because I'm a Norwich fan at the Nou Camp.
Yeah.
And I'd say, I can't say Pep because he's managed the Nou Camp. I'd say. What manager want to play under? Do you know what? I like playing under Eddie Howe. Norwich
City under Eddie Howe at the Nou Camp. That's
an interesting one.
That's a very. To be fair, I like them sort of like connections as well.
I mean, Eddie Howe is like one of those. I reckon he could be He's already
He's doing really well.
I reckon he would be a nice young English manager to play under at a famous stadium like that.
Proving a lot of people wrong at the moment, isn't he? I thought this season, obviously with Eddie Howe, a lot of people maybe felt that he could struggle a little bit because we're Champions League commitments was Premier League, but he's doing a really good job at Newcastle. But there you go, guys. Norwich City under Eddie Howe at the Nou Camp. That's a really good one.
Get that ever again.
To be fair, I don't think we ever will. I'll tell you what, if Matt next week goes, I'd like to play for Norwich, and he's a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anyone will want to play for Norwich.
Yes, that's a good one. But first things first, obviously, how have you felt this season's gone so far in the Essex Senior League?
It's been a cracking 2.5 months. Is it 2.5 months?
Roughly, yeah, roughly.
Well, already in October.
Late July, wasn't it?
It feels like it's still the start of the season with the weather. But, there were a lot of teams as well. I mean, obviously, I would say your team is a surprise package for me. But maybe not for Sport, maybe not for Matt and Matty and Steve, but where they were 2 or 3 years ago to now, it's a hell of an achievement. But then you look at the promoted teams. Let's get the league table up because I know. So I mean, but yeah, no. So it's. I think the team that come down from step 4 have found it harder than they expected. So and that is obviously the case. And all the 4 teams that came down are all in this division, which made this division. When we saw the teams who were in it at the start of the season, thinking, this could be a good season.
To be fair,
so many good teams.
I went to at the start of the season, like the opening sort of before the league had started, over at Saffron Walden, and our first game was away at Great Wakering. And I spoke to one of the coaches over at Great Wakering, and he actually turned around and said to me, he said, like, to be fair, like this league is going to be very competitive. Like there's going to be teams that have come down, obviously themselves, Tilbury, teams that have come down from this to this division, and there's going to be a lot of unexpected moments. I mean, we've been to Tilbury, we got beat 3-1 there, but we gave them a really good game, and he was kind of right, really, to be fair. Like, I mean, we've played now 11 games in the season. We're only 5 points off the top, and we played Woodford today.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're flying. Obviously, from last year, they had a really good year, and they've continued that momentum from last year. But yeah, it's kind of I've kind of noticed that myself. Like, there's been a lot of teams that I didn't really sort of expect to be around this sort of stage of the table at the start of the season, and yeah, it's making this league really competitive, you know. And what games we've got in prospect coming up? Like we've got today. I think Tuesday night, West Essex play Romford. You know, it's cracking games coming up over the next couple of days. But I mean, in terms of like the league itself, and as you said, you know, Sporting Bengal have definitely been, I would say, from a neutral point of view, one of the more unexpected sides. I mean, for myself, obviously, we felt that we had good quality in our side. We have over. I personally believe we have overhit a little bit, but like, at the same time, as you know, that's not saying that the players can't do that, because the players have been tremendous over the first few months. But where would you say, apart from us, where would you say you've been surprised at this year to see in the Essex Senior League this season?
I'm actually surprised to see West Essex doing so well, because after a change of management, you know, Kwame left, and obviously his assistant took over. I mean, apart from that, the management still rested the same. But I thought that would be a test for him to see, like, under a new manager. Obviously, he was assistant last year, but I thought they've always punched above their weight in this league as well, because they came from, they've not been in this league that long. Housted, I think they've had a really decent start, because I thought they might struggle this year, but I'm trying to go back to when I did our show, trying to find predictions.
I was going to say, was
very small memory bank.
Do you remember beforehand, like, if you done like a prediction from the start of the season?
Another team that's actually I'm pleased are now picking up Buckhurst Hill, because they had a lot of changes personnel wise, and I think since Sully's come back, Suleiman Zudu, for people who don't know who Sully is, I'm assuming most people know him. That's probably the best return of signing that they could have had, because they lost the Solosi brothers to Woodford. They lost 3 or 4 other players from that core team they had when they were coming through all the divisions to get to this level. So that was always going to be a test. And I mean, I spoke to Mark at the start of the season, the manager, and he was like, just got to try and make do with what we've got. So he wasn't sure how it was going to go. And they didn't start too well, but they've picked it up, especially since Sully's come back. So I think they'll finish top half. And I think they'll be more than pleased with that after all that. We remember
playing against Buckhurst Hill a few weeks ago, and we drew to them. We felt we dropped points in that game, but we could see from that game as well the progression that they've actually shown over the last few weeks. Matty, obviously, I know you're here. Obviously, you want to. Obviously, I'm sorry to put you on the spot there.
In the wing.
Hopefully, Spurs ain't losing at the moment.
I haven't checked yet.
But obviously, you can see Clark in the background getting ready for today's game. Obviously, massive game today for us. Obviously, I know you wanted to ask Peter a couple of questions, but massive game for us today this afternoon.
Yeah, it is. It's a really warm day out there as well. Boys going to need loads of water. It's really hot for October. It feels like a summer's day, to be honest, but great conditions for football. I mean, brilliant. Then being cold and raining at Myland Day. Sure. Pete, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate coming on support. No problem. Just like to say thanks to you, like the groundhoppers. The amount of effort they put in going around grounds, it makes non-league what it is. I know players and management and the fans it is, but without the groundhoppers, it makes that a little bit more exciting, doesn't it? When we get their blogs and we watch their shows, because I'm quite a fan of it. I watch them every week. They've not done one for a couple of weeks. Hopefully they're back up and running next week. But yeah, fair play to you guys. So thank you. So a couple of questions for yourself, Pete. Last season, we was winning a lot of home games in the Furlough 9.
Yeah.
And we was just going about our business at home. And it weren't until you turned around and tweeted something. You said, can so-and-so win at the Fortress, being the Mile End? So after you said the Fortress, we sort of picked up on that, and so did the players. And that goes down to the groundhopper and influence again. You said a Fortress, and now all of a sudden we think it's a Fortress, but it's easy just to lose games and not be a Fortress. But so your tweets don't go unrecognised, so we appreciate that. And again, also, there was a time last season, I think it's the third game in, we just beat Newbury Forest, and you tweeted, can Bengal do it? Can they go up? And I think, well, we had such a bad start, and then we sort of picked up, and we didn't start getting rolling till, I think, because you weren't here last year.
No, it's my first season.
It weren't until January there was a real belief in the squad. What was your thoughts when you see, because in the Furlough 9 there was a gap sort of open. What was your thoughts? Who was going to go up winners and promotion-wise via the playoffs?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think who's up there now.
So we had Wormley, Basildon, Stanway, Brentford, ourselves. Man Baker's up until the last 3 or 4 games.
I mean, there were so many teams in and around the playoffs picture.
There was,
You're just thinking, any one of them can sneak in. And then once you sneak into a playoff, it could easily just go all the way.
Yeah.
Because you've got the momentum at that point.
Yeah.
You often find that in any playoffs you go into. But I thought it might have been the title was probably between Brentford and Basildon Town.
Yeah, so Basildon
for a long time, but there were other teams. Wormley were
they played superb football. They had
Ryan Wade in charge. They had some step 5, step 4 players playing for him.
They did
at step 6, which is like they're always going to be there or thereabouts. But I just thought it was Brentford's to lose at one point.
At one point,
it nearly did go that way, but
it was nearly Basildon's to lose at one point because I think. Yeah. We drew them 1-1, second from last game of the season, I think it was. And if they'd beat us, they would have went on to win the league. So I think Brentford ended up winning it by a point or two.
It's just fine margins, isn't it? I think my own experience last season, I was refereeing on the furlough none last season, just on the line. And I had obviously experience of doing each sort of team like around that sort of area of the table. And I just generally thought to myself, any of those, as you said, any of those teams can really, if they get a run and if they can get that momentum going. And my honest prediction from that, I generally felt Wormley were going to go all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt Brentford, there was a time where I think they were sort of like losing a bit of control with that stability, and then they just got over the line. But I felt Wormley were, in my opinion, the team to really watch out for. But how wrong was I?
I thought the biggest game at the end of the season was probably Brentford Basildon Town.
Yeah.
Because Basildon scored
and Brentford
went 2-1 up
at the last minutes.
And at that point, it was then in their hands.
Yeah.
And then Brentford equalised, it's back in their hands. That is how
that's
what
it is.
And that turned out to be probably the deciding
pivotal,
factor.
Yeah.
Then. So
okay, pivotal.
It was
in the playoffs when we went and played Wormley. Look, Wormley were a good team.
Mm.
But for me, that was one of our strongest performances of the season against Wormley. We went there. And no disrespect to Wormley because they were a brilliant team. We know a few of the boys there. But we actually ran through them. At 2-0 was in such control of the game. And after we beat them, we thought, listen, it's 90 minutes now from another year in the furlough. No disrespect to it. Or back to where Sporting Bengal belonged, back at step 5 after a disastrous year the year before, getting relegated with something like 13 points, which didn't do the club justice.
It was to come back from that was
because I don't think anyone has been relegated from the ESL and gone straight back up. I don't think it's ever been done before. So
we were discussing before the start. We was discussing at the start how, teams like, say for example, Great Waker in Tilbury, they've come down from step 4 to step 5, and at the start of the season they really struggled. I mean, at the moment they've started to pick it up a little bit with some good results. We went there. We went their first game of the season, like no fear. We felt that we could really get a result. We did. Like we come from a goal down away from home. Crazy game of football to get us up and running. Just want to talk about today's game. Obviously, as we said, Woodford Town is the top of the table for a reason. They're a good side. Shane's got them organised really well. Matt, thank you very much. We'll speak to you later on. But obviously we'll go back to today's game. So, it's a really important game for us. It's an important game for Woodford Town, of course, for their season. Woodford in midweek, unfortunately, they got beat 2-0 by the Met Police in the Senior Cup, which, for us, obviously, seeing them playing midweek, gives maybe a little bit of an advantage because we've had a bit more rest. But sometimes, obviously, we've had, we had a rest period last weekend or the week before. Sorry, we come back to Whitenside, and we really struggled to get over the line. But where do you believe, as a neutral in this game, where do you believe the game could be won or lost for both sides?
I mean, again, it's going to be down to fine margins and little bits. You mean statistically, we're for the best team in the league because they're top 5 points clear, haven't lost in the league yet, and the only team haven't.
That's right.
But Sporting have only lost one.
That's right.
That was at Tilbury. So, and the only other defeat you had this season, I believe, was in the FA Cup on penalties.
That's right.
So you're not used to losing either.
No.
So it's one of those games where a little bit of detail here and there could make all the difference, So and obviously it's well documented. You're used to going behind in games and coming back.
Hope we know.
Every other there's only one game that's happened that you've actually gone in front. So Woodford are good at scoring late goals.
Yep.
So you have to be They have to be concentrated for 95, 100 minutes, whatever it is.
I bet that's the standard now, isn't it?
And I think it's a hard one to call. And I think it literally comes down to those moments of quality. One player like Sherri or one player on their side could produce that moment of quality to settle the game. It really is that close. You've got to start well. We don't want to be giving leads to Woodford,
yeah,
because it's going to be tough to come back against them. But at the same time, you'll have no fear against someone like Woodford because you are on paper probably just as good as they are. Just if you win today, 2 points behind them. So
I think, and as you said, I think it's fine margins, isn't it? And I think that's the the boys are definitely thinking about this today as well. Thinking that we can go 2 points behind, or unfortunately, if we have to say if we do get beat, then we go 8 behind, and how can we regroup? We've not really sort of had many feelings of defeat. Obviously, with the cup was obviously on penalties. We felt we were very disappointed in that. We felt we'd done enough to win the game.
The first game.
Yeah, exactly. And especially after the first game, we got us back from 3-0 down in 8 minutes. I mean,
Matt said to me, I think he's like one defeat in 27.
I think,
I think that's what he said to me earlier.
If
probably in league football, I don't know.
I think it is within the league. Obviously, we've lost one this season, but I remember I was refereeing Sporting Bengal in January last year that were at home to Benfleet, and they got beat 4-1. And I think from there they went on a run. I think it was like 2 defeats in the space of 20 games, and I think it's probably extended from obviously the back end of the last season. But I mean, last question I'll ask about today, obviously, and then obviously going to sort of your score prediction is, as a neutral, obviously, how good is it to see at this level? You're seeing the 2 best strikers on pitch today. Sherri in fine form, player of the month for September for us. And you got Luke Parrott, obviously, for Woodford Town, scoring goals, obviously really doing a good job for Woodford. I mean, but for yourselves watching the game this afternoon, to see those 2, I mean, surely we're expecting goals today.
Well, yes, we are expecting goals. I say that with trepidation. I mean, it's unlikely to be a goalless draw, isn't it?
Sod's law, probably.
If it is, it's mine. I apologise now. But no, I mean, people like to see goals in attacking football, don't they?
Yeah.
You're going to get that today.
Of course.
I mean, it's not just them 2 on the field either. You've got like Steve Carvell setting them up. They've got plenty of playmakers that we're setting up. Luke Parrott, it's potential to be a very decent contest. So, I say it's not an easy one to call. I mean, it could go either way. So, Woodford are going to lose at some point. Might be today, might not be today. It's very. I'm not trying to sit on the fence here, but it's very. It's not an easy one to. That's why I gave.
Not an easy one to call.
That's why I gave up predictions.
That's. I'm gonna push you a little bit. Obviously, I mean, look, be openly honest. What you feel the score could be today, and I mean, I'm not going to say my score predictions, but one thing I would say is, unfortunately for myself as the goalkeeping coach, I want to keep a clean sheet all the time. But in the league this season, we actually haven't kept a clean sheet this year, so it's always very difficult to take that on board. But I believe both teams will score today, but I'm not going to go with a score prediction. I don't really want to sort of. But in your own prediction,
well, I mean, Sporting has scored 26 goals in the league this season. Woodford have got 30. So that's 56 goals combined between the 2 teams in the league, and in the league only. And
probably like the two highest scoring teams in the league.
I mean, I think they're right up there, and that's why they're in the top 5. So, I would, if I was going to pick a score, I'd probably say 2-2.
Yeah.
I think it. I don't think. I mean, it could easily go 1 goal each way. I'll just say 2-2. Then it's. We'll see what happens.
From there.
The amount of score predictions I've got right over the years, so it probably won't be 2-2. But I think there will be goals today.
2-2 draw there.
Maybe 2 or 3 or something like that. I think it'll be an exciting game. I think both teams they've got so much attacking talent on the field that it's going to be. They're going to be goals to both sides for sure. Yeah.
And last question: do you believe that with Sporting Bengal's start to the season, do you believe that we can potentially continue this momentum and finish sort of within the playoff? I know it's very early saying, I get that. But
I mean, obviously there are more fancy teams to finish the playoffs, and I think teams like Tilbury, Holbridge, the teams that come down, I mean, Wakering, they're all going to be pushing for a top 5 or even winning the league. But you've got your Woodfords, you've got so many teams up there who fancy finishing.
I think there's 7 or 8 teams now, and they're vying for 5 spots.
This is the beauty of the playoffs now that they brought in, because it's not just one team. If one team runs away with it, it's like, the season's finished. I don't think that will happen this year because it's so competitive. But now you've got those 5 places. You've got the extra 4 places for playoffs. It will give more people more of a incentive to push on.
100%.
But I think Sporting have got every chance. They've got a sporting chance. That's a good one, isn't it? Of being one of those teams in the top 5. I mean, it's not the first 2 games. I saw the first 2 games of the season, and you think, is that just a flash in the pan? They've started well, but they proved that it's not, because they've carried on that form. And they're only 11 games in, and there's like 40 games or 30. I can't remember how many games during the season now.
The 27 league games left.
Yeah, so it's a lot of points to play for. But
100%.
If Sporting can keep that momentum going and not get too carried away, which I'm sure they won't under Steve and Matt, then they've got every chance to win the top 5. There's probably about 10 teams that probably could win the top 5. So it makes it exciting on to cover.
Definitely
neutrals for sure. So
no, that's a really good point. But guys, we're gonna wrap it there. In all honesty, it's been a really good debate. Obviously, Sporting Bengal United hosting Woodford Town, the top of the table team. Liverpool. Talking about Liverpool. What's the Spurs score? 0-0. That the goal chalked off yet? No. Obviously, guys, make sure on the way out hit that like button, and of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And yeah, obviously, Sporting Bengal have the opportunity to go 2 points behind Woodford Town with a win. Hopefully, boys, fingers crossed, touch wood. Obviously, until then, obviously, thank you very much to Peter for joining us as always. And
thanks for having me on.
No problem. You'll be enjoying the game as always. And we'll be definitely getting him on at some point, obviously, in the future as well. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and come on, Sporting Bengal United. Take care.